Pride.
Happy Pride. We're going to get to work. We're going to get to work. That's what it is.
Access to reproductive health care affects our community so much.
Yeah,
and I think
it does.
Something we don't think about a lot. So thank you so much for doing that and fighting the good fight. And also, can I just say, one thing that I got to learn about you last night that really blew my mind, and I've told everyone that will listen ever since. Your campaign manager, correct me if I'm wrong, your first campaign manager was Harvey Milk's campaign manager?
Really?
Wow.
Jim Rivaldo.
That's extraordinary.
I mean, yeah, he was a really special, and of course they were really, I want to say the fathers of,
Yes,
of
yeah.
the movement.
Yeah.
They were the fathers of the
For
movement,
sure.
right?
Without
And
question.
and Rivaldo, as we called him, he was like a family member to us by the end of it all. He was just family. In fact, my mother took care of him as he was sick and dying. He had AIDS. And Rivaldo felt so strongly about the movement being a function of many things, including a collective fight for freedom and for justice, and the importance of community, but the importance of, in particular, coalition building, right? So Rivaldo was an Italian-American white gay man who loved black people. He believed in a black woman being the first black woman to be the DA in major cities, right? He would talk about how he and Harvey and the leaders of the movement always understood the interconnection.
Yes.
Of all of us.
Right.
Yeah.
And the interconnection of struggle.
Right.
Right? And so he was so special. He actually he was a very special person. And he was very talented. He was actually a part of Harvard Lampoon in the earliest days of it, which you guys would appreciate, right? Yeah, he was a very, very special person. So yeah.
It means so much. And hearing the way that your family showed, I've been living with HIV for over 10 years, and I think it's a really interesting example of intersectionality when we look at what's happening with Planned Parenthood. We think of Planned Parenthood as someone who provides reproductive access, which they do. I also found out that I was HIV positive at a Planned Parenthood. And without their testing, without the access to that testing, I don't even know where I would be. And so it's so important that we think about funding intersectionality, making sure that we can protect institutions that are protecting people. And thank you for doing that so much.
But you're so right. So, okay, as it turned out, I went to a Planned Parenthood clinic a few months ago now because I wanted to highlight this point, which is that when all of these abortion bans happen, in the states where it has happened, these clinics have had to shut down. And they provide so much care,
So many other
including
services.
HIV testing. They provide, screenings of every sort. And the thing about these clinics, which I'm sure you could talk about, and we have all seen, they give people dignity.
Yes.
They're trusted.
Yes.
They're in touch with the community.
Yeah.
People know that that's a place you can go for health care where you will receive dignity and you will not be judged.
Yes.
And that's so important. We have to always appreciate that because it's not always the case.
Oh yeah, there's certain communities where
Right.
you're scared to ask about getting HIV tested, or even if you find out that you are positive, to have a doctor that's going to give you proper medications or preventative things like PrEP. People are scared to ask their physician because they have to come out to them,
That's
and that might
right.
not be a safe environment with that doctor.
That's exactly right. And so I'm so glad you raised that because the intersection around all of these issues, it turned out I was the first vice president of the United States to ever go to a reproductive care clinic.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you,
But
first
then
of all.
if-
No, we got to take a
you
moment and
think
say
of-
thank you for that. Because that's big.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But to highlight these
But it shows the way that
points.
women's reproductive health care hasn't been highlighted by so many administrations,
Right.
and so thank you so much for doing that important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you. And PrEP, when I was in the Senate, we fought to make sure that the medication would be available and that insurance would cover it.
Yes.
Right.
We started.
Right?
I do a lot of work around HIV prevention, and we started using language like men who have sex with men because some people who engage in that don't identify as gay, bisexual, or queer, right? And so, how are you messaging to folks as a preventative? Listen, many of us remember, 20 years ago plus, we're all wearing red ribbons. We've gone to so many HIV fundraisers. Now we have so many incredible tools to help folks who are positive live great lives, and those who are negative stay negative, to remain negative. We know that U equals U, undetectable means untransmittable.
Yeah.
We have the information. We all have been to things where we helped fundraise to get to where we are, and there is a journey to go until there's a cure.
Right.
However, the stigma is still there, and so if you can't even see a physician and get the care you need, how will we stop HIV/AIDS?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I mean, remember during the height of the AIDS epidemic, how badly people were being treated. I mean, it was awful. And again, the stereotypes, the myths, compounded with the lack of services.
Right.
And
you use that word dignity. I don't mean to
It's
interrupt,
so
but
important.
it's the most important thing. I did rant for 5 years, and there's a lyric that says, "Will I lose my dignity?
Yeah.
Will someone care?" And it was a support group for those living with HIV. And I just think about that because I lost my aunt in 1996, and I watched firsthand what it was like for a woman who was heterosexual, who had 2.5 kids, the car, the house, the boat, and the way she was treated. I remember I took her to a dentist appointment, and the dentist put on 4 pairs of gloves. And I watched my aunt turn away from him and wipe a tear. And I'll never forget that. Like, that stayed with me forever. The fact that we can't treat people with the same dignity that we all respect. It's not a bad person's disease.
Yeah. But you being in this position and what you're doing is what makes it so impactful, because I have aunts, uncles, family members who, before they saw you and the way you approached everyone with the same love, care, and dignity, they did not approach people of different communities, people of our community, with that same pride. But because they see you and you reflect back to them themselves, they've changed. And I've seen it firsthand since you've been in office, and that's why I admire you so much, because you just standing in your light and your presence has changed people who used to be like, "No, I can't do that. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that." And all of a sudden they see you and they like, "Okay, that's my girl. I can do that. I can do that now." And but it's so impactful. And we know how one person who you admire and respect changing and standing in their truth and treating people with dignity and love, how it just ricochets across the world. So thank you.
thank you.
Yeah,
I'm very
you're
touched that you shared that with me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think it's, there's, I've been talking a lot recently about what I think we've all sadly witnessed over the last several years, which is this suggestion that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down. Instead of what we know, the true measure of the strength of a leader, elected in whatever position they're in, the true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up.
Absolutely.
Right?
Amen.
Like you want to know your strength,
Yes.
right? And the idea that it's a sign of weakness to have empathy, when in fact, isn't that the sign of the strength of character?
Yes.
Which is to have some level of concern and care about the suffering, the well-being of other people, and then take it upon yourself to do something about it. I think we all agree that that is actually a character strength,
Yes.
That's the heart.
right?
Yeah.
That's the heart.
Right?
That's the heart of the show. That's the heart of Pure, right? 20 years ago,
Yeah.
it may have been, a bit of a make better series, but the evolution really was about heart and humor and transformation.
Can you tell me, it was such an incredible, groundbreaking thing that history now, 20 years later, I think everyone understands what you guys did to really, to just talk about giving fuel
Yeah.
to people's sense of their consciousness about
It was a wake
who
up.
is what.
Yeah.
And how we should all think about ourselves in relation to each other. How did that come about? Like, what happened?
It's a really cute story.
It is a cute story.
A pre-story. So back 20 years ago when we tried to register the name Queer Eye in New York. It was illegal.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't
The word
know
that.
queer
Queer
was
wasn't allowed to be
derogatory. It was, you could not use it in any business.
Because it was considered derogatory.
Derogatory.
Right,
And actually,
right.
a few years in the beginning of our season, we filmed in Gay, Georgia, and a guy.
A town, Gay,
Yeah,
Georgia.
I figured that.
But on legal forms, you
Great
couldn't use
name.
the word gay.
Well, no one,
Wow.
because season one
Right.
vendors were like, we don't want to work with you guys
Right.
because you have the word
Right.
queer.
Queer
in the
in
show.
your title.
Big
Really?
vendors. That, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. They've evolved and changed.
But you have not forgotten.
I don't shop there. But that's
Tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, the long story short is this: we were in Boston, Massachusetts, South End, kind of Boston's
Yeah.
gay neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
And it was a Sunday afternoon. I like to call it was the perfect storm of luck, timing, and God, right? We walked
Yeah.
into this big studio warehouse. There was like 100 people, all looking at art, drinking their champagne and eating cheese. And all of a sudden, this weird hush came over the room, and everyone's kind of, what's going on? In the middle of the room, some woman just starts berating her husband. Look at you for the way he looks, your hair, your shirt, your dress. And then out of everyone into slow motion across the room, four unbelievably handsome, well-coiffed men came strolling across, and they surrounded the man and pushed the wife aside, like, ma'am, that's not what we do. And they just started loving on him. And that's coming back to your story. They just tucked in his shirt and fixed his hair, like, no, you're great. Confidence breeds success. Really
That's
is
right.
where this was born from. I turned to Michael and just out of my head I said, did you see that? That was like Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. And when it came out of her mouth,
I said,
when it came
1 year from now, that'll be a hit on TV.
true, and it was less than a year later that we were really fortunate to take it to Bravo, almost 20 years ago, when it was a TNL network, and these two get credit because they were the first gay men to be out there being who they were, telling their story and sharing.
Do you remember that was a big deal? You guys said, I remember, I don't know if you knew this, but on our end,
Right.
the criteria was, yes, you had to fit into the umbrella of your category, but you had to be openly gay. And as an actor, I remember thinking, oh, so then I'll walk into rooms and spaces and everyone will know. And for context, in 2003,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even the queer casts that were doing, or the shows that had queer content, many of the actors who were queer were closeted and or being portrayed by straight folks. So it was a big deal in the sense
right.
that
Oh,
just
I mean,
being
it was-
out was crazy.
Yeah, it was the Bush administration.
I mean, I didn't have to worry. They already knew.
You didn't come out to your family.
Wait,
until
yeah,
the show.
yeah.
Oh, I did, yeah. We were going to be on the cover of TV Guide, and I was like, I guess I better tell my family. And I was like, what's the show called? I'm like, I don't know, something about makeover. I picked a very rainy, stormy day in a minivan. I was like, if she freaks out, she'll kill all of us. And it was the classic, like, hello, of course we
Right,
know you're gay.
right.
But, you know, the coming out process, the show helped me to come out personally.
Yeah.
And one of the most grateful things I am for that show is that so many young people come up to me today on airplanes or in the mall and say, your show helped me come out because it allowed a safe dialogue with my family to say, oh, gay is okay. And, you know, we were some of the first gay people
They got to
that
see
people
real role
met.
models.
I was like,
Real
have you
role
not been on
models.
an airplane? Have you not had highlights? But that, it was not meant to be to change the philosophy of our country, but it was a very subversive thing because we were just coming in and doing good work and being joyful
That's right.
warriors.
And also,
like
you never
you.
saw straight and queer folks depicted as friends.
Kind of coming together.
Right.
Which Main Street, by the way, we started on a Tuesday, ended on a Thursday, at least our time with our hero character.
Right.
Sometimes they were not, so they signed up for it, but sometimes they presented as prickly, homophobic, scared of us, and by the end, they would be emotionally, I mean, I'm sure you guys
Yeah.
know.
We use
We've
a
had a
filter.
couple.
We use a filter called transformation through information, told with comedy and heart. And the transformations,
Nice.
sure, you get a new dress, a new outfit, a nice new sofa, but
Right.
really it's about the sharing of our stories,
Yeah.
right? I tell you my story, you tell
Yeah.
me yours. We see each other's
Yeah.
humanity and we lift each other up. And I do say a lot, you know, confidence breeds success. When I tell you something about myself and you tell me, we get to lift each other and share our
Right.
connection,
That's
our
exactly
humanity.
right.
And that's the heart of what Jonathan and Karamo and our teams do. 20 years of this for
Yeah.
Michael and I to look at that. We're proud papas and daddy. We have 15-year-old daughters, and we have a daughter who has really never had to come out. She identifies as lesbian. When she was 5 years old, she caught my eye in the rearview mirror and she says, Daddy, I'm a girl, but I like boys' things. And I was like, I'm a boy, and I love girls' things. We're gonna get along just fine. And she's never had to live in a world where that fear of coming out
Right.
was part of her existence. She just gets to be Ella, and Ella is Ella. I know how
you
great.
have an
I have
Ella.
an Ella and an Olive. We have twin girls. Who, speaking of reproductive reproductive rights, who we had through IVF and
Yeah.
gestational surrogacy, and the journey for he and I to become parents
Yeah.
was a big deal. It was, 20
Yeah.
years ago we started and had to spend tons of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
I look at every of the young gay couples now, I'm like, oh, I hope you don't have to cost as much as we did
Yeah.
to try to have children
Yeah.
through
I
IVF
just
and
read
gestation.
some legislation, some state is trying to only straight married couples can have IVF.
It's
To have IVF.
And I'm like, and I look at our 15-year-olds, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
They could be in this
Yeah.
office someday.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
but this is the thing about this moment, right? There's a phrase from Coretta Scott King that I paraphrase all the time. And she famously said, the fight for civil rights, which is the fight for equality, it's the fight for justice, must be fought and won with each generation.
Exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I think part of her point was that it's the nature of the progress and the gains that we make.
Right.
They will not be permanent unless we are vigilant. We have to be vigilant. And so the second point of that admonition then is, okay, understanding that's the nature of it all, do not despair.
Right.
It's the nature of it.
Right.
Yes,
right?
triple
So
warrior.
just right, it's joyful
Yes.
warrior. And so we
Yes.
just know what we have to do. Got it. Got it. I understand that.
Yes.
Got it.
Because I have been a little down lately, so this is really good advice.
Yeah,
That's
good advice.
the name of the game. We gotta keep
That's
on
exactly
working.
right.
Yes.
We can't take any of these things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And let's also, be fueled by the optimism to know that we can also get better than we are, and that it's not
Absolutely.
only about maintaining the progress that we've achieved, but let's keep going.
Level up,
right?
level
Like
up,
the
level
Equality
up.
Act. We still need to get the Equality Act.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
the Equality
Yeah.
Act.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring it
Right?
back. We're gonna bring it back.
Right?
That was not so 2018. We are gonna bring it back.
That's
right.
We just need a Democratic House and Senate to reintroduce it, honey. It's gonna
Well,
happen.
that's exactly
It's going to happen.
There's an election in
Yes.
There is an
And
election.
there will be a lot of issues that are decided based on that election. And here's the thing. This election in November is asking each of us a very fundamental question. What kind of country do we want to live in?
Yes. Yes.
And we each have the power to answer that. Right? And I think that's part of what we have to remind everyone of. There are forces that are trying to divide us.
Yes.
There are forces that are trying to make people feel small and outside. And we have to remind each other that, no, don't ever let anyone take your power from you, including the power of your voice through your vote, right? And to remember that we're all part of a community of people who are propelled by, love of thy neighbor, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that gives me a sense of optimism, is knowing that the majority of us, I think, do value certain things, including that we fight for each other's dignity,
Yeah.
that we agree to the foundational principles of our country, right? All equal,
Yes.
Yeah.
entitled to certain freedoms
Yeah.
and certain rights
Yes.
that should not be taken.
Yep.
Right.
I think it's good messaging because so many people in our community, especially young folks, who feel charged and empowered, I think can get bogged down by.
Well, there's a
Right.
well. If we're gonna be real about it, there's a sort of apathy right now that we're seeing,
Yeah.
and one of the reasons why I'm excited to be here is because I want people to be reignited and be reengaged.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just because someone is making you feel down, making you feel small, making you feel like maybe I don't know if my voice is going to be heard, it is important for your voice to be heard.
That's
That's
right.
not when you get more quiet. That's when you get louder.
That's exactly right.
And I think what is so great about you having us is you're saying anyone who feels like maybe your voice isn't heard, come to the table. I'm willing to talk to you.
That's exactly right.
And I'm so thankful for this.
And your voice is welcome.
Welcome.
Right?
Yes.
And it's legitimate and it's important.
Yes.
Right?
And it
The sharing
matters.
of our
Appreciate it.
stories. I'm a kid from Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Southern Baptist, fire and brimstone, and I
Yeah.
love being able to go back and have conversations. Like, guess what? I'm just like you. I'm a daddy. I have kids. I work. I own a business. I work hard, by the way,
Yeah.
and I love the Lord.
Yeah.
I'm a gay Christian, and people are blown away when I have that conversation with them, they're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it actually works. Believe it or not, my childhood foundation is not fire and brimstone. It's love. And
That's
we get
right.
to share that
Yes,
love
yes,
with
yes,
our
yes,
children,
yes.
and our children
That's
get
right.
to see that in a whole new way. That for me is really what work we all get to do. Our heroes, we call them episodic heroes. It's just a love fest because it's about them coming in on day one and having 5 amazing gay men just love on them for 5 days and love on them with hair, fashion, grooming, interior design, culture, food, and wine, but all at the same time, just reminding them that they're so loved and so valued and so seen. And that's what we need to keep doing here in America is reminding each other that we're all humans, we all love. We all want to be
Amen.
connected.
You're right. It's really, it is that fundamental.
It is. It's that simple.
And that, you know, it's that, and that each person has a right to, you know, I talked about it last night, to be.
Yeah, just to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And just to be, and to
Yeah.
be safe in that,
Yeah.
and to not be judged in that,
Yeah.
and to receive the dignity to which all people are entitled, right?
Yes.
And deserve.
To every queer person and ally who has made Pride possible, David, I think about 20 years of Queer Eye, your guys' vision has changed all of our lives. The way that you guys have shown up, the way that you have shown up, Madam Vice President, and continue to show up means so much for Pride. You also tell the story of how life is like a relay when we're here.
Yeah.
So the people that have come before us and carried their baton, the people who are here now that are currently carrying the baton, and for the young people that are coming, happy Pride, honey.
Yes. Oh, can I add one last thing too? Because I
Yes,
was
yes,
in your
yes.
hometown-ish. I was in San Francisco just
Yes.
last week, working with their gay and lesbian chamber of commerce.
Yes.
And I was walking around, and I looked up, and there was a Soul Cycle, and I thought, well, I'm not going in there because I don't work out. But above it was Harvey Milk Closet, and
Yes.
in neon etched in the building, it said, "Hope is never silent." And
That
I was just like, we've got to talk about this.
That was one of Harvey's real
Right.
points. It's
Um,
never,
um,
it's not about quiet hope,
Right.
No.
Exactly.
because that's not true hope,
Yeah.
right? If you think of hope as, hope is a verb.
It's living.
It's about
It's an action.
action,
It's action.
right? That's how we should think
Yes.
about hope,
Yeah.
as a verb, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the same way about faith.
Yeah.
It's a verb,
It is.
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
You act on it,
I act on it.
right?
Yeah.
How people? So I now live in Los Angeles,
I've
but
heard
I
of it.
am from the I am from the Bay Area, and so I gave myself now. I'm a Sangelino.
I like it.
You like
I
that?
love that.
Okay.
Angelina.
Why not?
I like
That's
that.
great.
The first 15 minutes of this, I got so overwhelmed by being in the presence of Madam Vice President that I completely forgot all the beats that we were here to talk about, and then I started talking about my HIV status and Planned Parenthood. Well, that's really important. I just want to say sorry about that. And what a great chat this has been. I'm so sorry about that. Anyway, I just needed to express that. Okay, great.
Side note, can you, for me personally, tell your husband he does an amazing job and looks great always?
Yeah.
Because you are a very
Oh,
stunning
you
woman
have to-
and you're a
my
smart woman, a stunning woman, and for him to stand by your side and always look equally as impeccable and always just have the confidence and love just from him.
Yeah.
There was a video that went viral recently where he was pointing at you like who I love. You saw that video? I mean, I just want to let him know that
Aw,
he gets the
thank
queer eye
you.
stamp of
I'm
approval.
Yeah.
Okay?
You know what, he's
That's one of
gonna
the straight
be-
guys we don't need to
He's
make
gonna
over.
be so happy to hear
Seriously.
that. No, I can't
Just
tell
love
you
him.
how happy he will be.
Yeah, we just love him. We just love him.
My husband is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, he
Talk
is.
about somebody who's just completely self-actualized.
Yes.
Oh.
Like he just,
What a good word.
Amazing.
he really is. He's comfortable, in his skin.
life. Yeah.
And in his life, he loves his family. He works hard. He's kind.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has a wonderful sense of humor.
Yes. You
He
get the
loves my
jackpot.
cooking. and I love to cook.
Okay.
It works out really well.
Yes.
Cheers, of course.